anxiety, depression are completely natural responses to having your every move be monetized. I tried to remember a time where my throat wasn't sore and I tried to film something. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Gita Mary and today is another day of me with a throat, with a voice that doesn't really work the way it usually works. I spent a week at Roskilde Festival and this is why my voice is like this now. I saw Lizzo, so naturally nothing. And I even tried to spare my voice a lot because I knew I wanted to film this video once I got back home. But I hope you can deal. My voice will be back to normal in the next video, promise. I really tried, but this is what it is. And it's actually a really great segue into what I wanted to talk about today, because today's video is going to be about productivity, and specifically the lack thereof. Or like maybe a combination. I want to talk about both my own relationship with productivity, sort of how I schedule my work-life balance, which to be honest has been in both extremes recently. Because I'm self-employed, I have done a lot of thinking when it comes to productivity and I have a lot of thoughts about it. And I have a lot of thoughts about the very toxic, stress-prone culture that a lot of people are living in, experiencing, not only self-employed people, but generally like the hustle culture of it. I have thoughts and things I want to talk about. Why not also talk about productivity and stress and burnout? It's something that I think about a lot these days, so wanted to talk about that. But before we do so, this video is sponsored. That singing sounds so weird with this voice. This video is sponsored by Skillshare, and Skillshare is a long-term partner of mine. I've really enjoyed working with them throughout the years, and they have taught me some amazing things. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of different courses where you can learn basically everything. And there is, in fact, a whole section of courses related to productivity, especially on how to relax when you also want to be productive. And one course I found that really works for me is Just Start, which is very motivational, very inspirational, but also very realistic in terms of how creative minds especially work. This course has a huge focus on pacing and how to not burn yourself out, how creative minds work in terms of productivity, and when you're in fact doing your best work. Spoiler alert, it's not when you're going 100 miles an hour trying to do as many things at the same time as possible, and that's something I've really struggled with, so this course has been super helpful. And if you want to check out this course that I've mentioned, or other courses as well, you can find a link down below, and the first 1,000 people to click it will get a free month trial of Skillshare. Thank you so much for sponsoring. Now let's get into productivity talk. So I just took a whole week off. I basically did no work. I was at Roskilde Festival. I lived in a tent, so I didn't have my laptop with me. I had minimal power on my phone. I did a couple of Instagram posts because I felt like it, but I did very minimal work. And that was a really wild experience for me. So I realized while I was in this tent, more context, before Roskilde, I was 4 days at Copenhagen, another festival, but I lived in a hotel and I had my laptop in my room and I worked when I wasn't at the festival. This was a different vibe. This was me partying until 6 in the morning, sleeping until 12, and then doing it all again for a whole week straight. Hence the voice. Anyway, I had an amazing time, but something came up while I was doing this. I had this insane thought. I was sitting on a hill with my friend who was with me. We had a drink in our hand. The weather was amazing. And I realized that when I don't have my work to lean on, when I don't work or produce something, create something, when I don't work, I don't know who I am right now, which is a very depressing thought through and through. It's not supposed to be that way. And before going to Roskilde, I thought to myself probably 100 times, I do not have time for this. I do not have time for this. I shouldn't be going because I don't have time for this, because I have to work. And I've sort of been caught in a weird spiral of working in order to simply just exist, because that's who I know who I am when I work. I know who I am when I create something, and that can be super healthy. Like having a creative outlet is an amazing way to de-stress, to focus on yourself, etc. That's not entirely what I mean here. So I was talking to my friend about this, and we tried to really unpack how stressed I have actually been. It's a lot more than I initially thought. If I do not have a sense of self without my work, we need to fix that. So I thought a really good way to sort of get through this, or sort of to uncover a lot of these emotions related to productivity. I wanted to sit down, just talk about it. I don't have a script, I don't have anything, but I do have a lot on my mind. So yeah, that was a thought that I had. While I was at Roskilde, I had one of the first days, I was joining a panel, which is why I was there. So I was invited, I got paid to be there for that specific event. For the rest of the week, it was just all on me. But I did get the ticket, the camping, everything, which was amazing. Very privileged. But I was really happy that I went, even though I did not feel like I could. After a few days, I completely let go. I started thinking about who I am without my work. Not that I want to give up what I do, because I love it to bits and my business has never done better than it is right now. But I need to know who I am outside of that as well. I need to be able to take a whole week without feeling guilty about it. So that was sort of my introduction into realizing that I might have been a little bit stressed out, which led me to think about the way I deal with stress with hustle culture. It made me think about the broader scope of the romanticization of stress. And it's this idea that it's cool to be stressed, that it's sort of lame and lazy to relax and enjoy relaxing, that you need to be a little bit stressed, and that's a little bit cool, that's a little bit great. But the romanticization of stress is indeed very real, and it's something I've experienced many times as a self-employed person, but I'm very sure it also exists in corporate settings, in other types of businesses. Another fun thing, recently, like, I'm dating, so I am on dating apps. It's an absolute waste of time in my opinion, but it's fun to waste people's time sometimes. I'm on Hinge and I'm messaging with this guy, and he asks me about my job. I tell him a little bit about what I do, and he says something, or texts something. I've heard this many times as well. I want to rip people's faces off whenever they say this. But they say, and he says this, it must be so nice to have your hobby as your job. There's so many layers to this. First of all, I have never, this is a completely different thing, but I have never ever heard someone say this to a man in my life. I get this a lot. I get this, it must be so nice to have your hobby as your job. If I treated my work as a hobby, I would live on the street. I would not make any money whatsoever. I have had to have an absolutely insane work ethic. I have had to say no to so many things through uni, through high school even. Also still now, you have to sacrifice a lot of things to be where you want to be. And you have to put in more work hours than is good for you, basically. And you need to make some decisions sometimes that's not fun. You also can't, and I said all of this to him obviously because this is an absolute trigger for me, and I think it scared him away real nice. It was perfect. It feels so demeaning when people say this. And I've talked to my mom about this as well, because she's an artist. She's been an artist for over 30 years and self-employed as well. And people have said this to her so many times as well. And at this point, we've just built each other up to just absolutely tear people apart when they say this, because it just feels demeaning. It feels like you're not being taken seriously. Someone is just picturing you just going about your day, just, oh, that's so nice. Oh, I might do a little thing, I might do a little thing. I don't know, I do whatever I want. Like, no. No, no, no. The amount of times I've sat until 3 o'clock in the morning editing videos, obviously this is not a flex, and this is what I'm talking about with the monetization of stress. Anyway, I've also made it my deal to have other activities that I do that are my hobbies. Like I paint and I draw, I exercise, I hang out with my friends, I play board games, I play Magic the Gathering, all these kinds of things. They feel like my hobbies. Those are hobbies. This is job. So when we are romanticizing stress, or we are romanticizing the hustle culture, we push ourselves to be more productive, to produce more things, and we often end up focusing more on quantity rather than quality. I know for a fact that I do some of my best work when I take my time, when I work things through, when I focus on a few projects rather than trying to do a million things at the same time. But having that information and also living by that is very, very difficult. At least it is very difficult for me. But I know that when I want to be my most productive, I need to shift my mentality from thinking most productive means producing a lot of things, And I need to focus on producing quality things, which will automatically mean less work, mean less content, but better content. So there's that. Now, with the romanticization of stress, now with this hustle grind culture, we end up, or I don't know about we, now I'm mostly talking about my own experiences. If you can relate to this as well, that's awesome. But you often end up, I often end up monetizing or thinking in a monetary value whenever I experience anything. And this is not something that is exclusively a problem for self-employed people. Overall, we live in a structure where our actions, where our every single need, feeling, and moment in our daily lives is monetized in some way. And I would say that stress, anxiety, depression are completely natural responses to having your every move be monetized. Now, I share a lot about my own life online. I want to share a lot about my own life because this is what I've built a lot of my business around. I don't have a fancy degree in anything that has to do with environmentalism or science. I have a master's degree in English and culture. It's very soft, all of it. And my stepping stone into my business was simply my own perspective as a consumer and the challenges I faced as a consumer trying to be more sustainable and continue to face. And you guys have seen me grow and change my life a million times, and lots of everyday moments that I love to share. But I think it is massively important to keep something to yourself, to have things that are for you, that are private, because the moment you start to monetize every single aspect of your life, you've doomed yourself. In my opinion. One thing that I keep saying to myself over and over is that I want to find the calm. I want to find a good balance, a good place where I don't have to worry about money, that I don't have to worry about my living situation, but I have no desire to be wealthy. So I am in a really privileged situation overall, but excessive wealth has never been attractive to me, not in other people, not in myself. I want to be unworried, so to speak. And going into sustainability, you know you're not going to be super duper rich from that anyway. So like that was never an option, really. Also, most wealth today is generational anyway, and my family do not have money. But I want to not worry about money, which in my opinion is the most useful type of wealth. Excessive wealth, and this also comes with hustle culture, by the way, because I have never seen someone preach hustle culture that are also not over-consuming in many different aspects of their lives. Fancy clothes, designer label, fancy traveling, big cars, all this bullshit. I'm not into that. And obviously that's not very sustainable either. My point just being that hustle culture and moving super fast through your life, always in the need for something new to happen, always desiring something new and exciting, will often, very often, lead to overconsumption. Because that is the consumer behavior that the hustle culture mindset is feeding off of. It's the same thing. Those are the same picture. I am trying to find the calm, to be present in the moment and to be okay with less. I have to figure that out anyway because I still haven't sold my house. It started to rain. Amazing. Oh, I love the rain. While I was at Roskilde, I was attending a concert where the band had a song about stress, and I didn't actually know the band very well. It's a Danish band, and I don't really listen to their music, very poppy, and I know their hits, but it's not something I've sort of pursued. But they had a song about how you're never present in the moment because of your successful business, because so many things are happening for you. You are always moving on from where you are. You're never present. You're never there because you're always thinking about where to go next. And I hadn't heard this song before. It was a light, upbeat song. I cried like a child. I stood there, bright midday, beer in my hand, and just cried. Because this hit home for me so well. The never being present, the always having to move away from something is something, it's a balance you have to deal with. Actually, tomorrow I'm going to Brussels for a few days to visit the EU Parliament. So I feel this to my core. I came home from Roskilde on Sunday. I had 2 days at home. It's Tuesday now. and I'm leaving tomorrow. I sometimes have to be okay living in that pace, but I have to find moments of peace and calm even when my schedule looks like that, and be okay with not also creating videos, with not also researching for impact analysis, with also not delivering at the same pace I would if I was at home for several weeks. And that is a really, really difficult thing for me to do. I hope some of this makes sense for people that are not me and not living my life. Sometimes you're not always in control of what happens through your work and your schedule, etc. And you have to find a way to still, even though you are not in control, to still find calm in those moments. And that is really, really difficult to do in general. We're working on it. So I guess productivity is not necessarily all it's cracked up to be, or at least when we think about productivity, I think it's really important to not associate it with absolutely unaliving yourself in the name of productivity, because then you're not actually being that productive to begin with. I think it's important to shift our narrative regarding productivity to also include breaks and pacing and doing nothing. Doing nothing is something that I find so incredibly unnatural, which in and of itself is a big problem. So it's something that I'll definitely need to work on and take days where I don't do anything, which is really difficult. It's really difficult. I don't like it. I don't like it whatsoever. If anything, last week taught me that I need to learn how to thrive in a state of unproductivity in order to then be productive later. This is not me just figuring this out. I mean, it is a little bit, but it's not me uncovering the world's greatest secret. I think there are tons of people that already know this. So it's just me trying to sort of implement it into my own mentality and my own work ethic by saying it out loud. And if it helps you too, if it helps you to deal with stress and work-related anxiety or generally just burnout, I am super happy to help. Let's have this conversation together. If you have any experiences regarding this as well, or if you have anything that really works for you in terms of pacing yourself, in terms of optimizing your productivity by also including states of calmness and unproductivity, let me know what your relationship with this issue is, and let's help each other out in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you liked it. Also, a big thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. I am going to go and lie down now. Just take a nap. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Have an amazing day and take really good care of yourselves. Until next time. Bye.